When Mikoyan reported back, Stalin was pleased and said, "Well, let's see. The Soviet Communist Party will receive the Chinese delegation in Moscow." Then in June 1949 Liu Shaoqi made a secret visit to Moscow. No one knew when Liu Shaoqi went there. Why? Because Chinese archives were not open at that time. But everyone knew that on the 30th of June Mao Zedong issued a statement that he was siding with the Soviet Union, and in 1987 Shizha's memoirs were published. Shizha was a translator with Liu Shaoqi at the time. He said he left Beijing on the 2nd of July. So in the late 1980s and early 1990s, all historians inferred that Mao was the main one who took the initiative on the issue of the Sino-Soviet alliance. For he issued a statement before Liu Shaoqi went, and it was publicly published in the press. It was no more than a signal to the Soviets to express their loyalty. By 1995, the Soviet archives were declassified one after another, and I later found 2 documents that showed that this was not what was going on at all. The first document was that Stalin had a logbook in the Kremlin, from the day he became General Secretary until his death, and it had every day who came into his office, when he went in and when he came out. It clearly says there that it was at 11 p.m. on the night of the 27th of June 1949 that Liu Shaoqi entered the Kremlin, and left at 12 p.m. In that case, the situation is completely different. It was Liu Shaoqi who went to Moscow first to meet Stalin, and then he sent a telegram to Mao Zedong to tell him about the meeting. What about this meeting? Later I found the record of the meeting. Stalin was particularly proactive, and the record of the meeting was very interesting. As soon as he came up, he asked, "Comrade Liu Shaoqi, what else do you need?" Liu Shaoqi said, "We need guns, we need artillery, we haven't finished the civil war yet. We need steel, we need warships, we need planes." Stalin agreed to everything and said, "Give us whatever you want." He said he would help you train pilots, set up an aviation school, establish an air force school, in short, give you whatever you want. Finally, what else do you want? Liu Shaoqi couldn't even think of anything. Stalin said, "I tell you, there is one more thing that you have to do, you have to hurry up and occupy Xinjiang, because at that time when the civil war was going on, Peng Dehuai stopped fighting when he reached Lanzhou." Why? It turned out that Mao's vision was to solve the problem in Guangzhou first, then he told the 1st Field Army to march into Xinjiang, the 2nd Field Army to march into Tibet, and the 3rd Field Army to fight across the sea and march into Taiwan. Why did he not march on Xinjiang? Liu Shaoqi explained to Stalin that, firstly, the road was too far, we had no cars and no horses, and we didn't know how long it would take to walk there. Stalin said, "That's fine, I'll give you cars, if not, I'll send you planes to transport all your troops there." Liu Shaoqi said, "Another problem is that there are cavalry of Ma Hongkue and Ma Bufang on the road, this cavalry is too powerful. The original West Road Army was defeated by them." Stalin said, "This is also easy to do, I send 2 regiments of aircraft, once the bombing cavalry will be scattered." So Liu Shaoqi quickly sent a telegram in the early morning to tell Mao Zedong the whole situation. As soon as Mao Zedong saw the telegram, he was so happy that he immediately informed Peng Dehuai to prepare to march into Xinjiang and issued a one-sided declaration. So in fact the Sino-Soviet alliance was more significant to the Soviet Union than to the Communist Party of China. Regarding this treaty, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China wrote a report to the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union on the 4th of July, talking about many issues and various aspects. One of them was about this treaty. The CPC put forward several options that it wanted Stalin to choose from. You could overturn the old treaty and establish a new one, or you could maintain the old treaty, or you could maintain the old treaty for the time being and then issue a declaration. These were the 3 options put forward by the CPC at the time. It was actually a test. Stalin wrote next to that document, saying that there was no hurry to talk about the matter, and that he would wait until Mao Zedong came, and that he wanted to talk directly with Mao Zedong. So Liu Shaoqi went back and said that all other tasks had been accomplished, but the treaty was not negotiated. In this way, after the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Mao Zedong started planning to go to Moscow. Russian scholars used to say that Mao went for a long time, staying for 2.5 months. Why did he stay so long? Russian scholars say he came mainly to cure his illness. Schusch's memoirs say that there was no prior communication between the two sides, that Stalin didn't know what Mao was coming for, so there was a misunderstanding. It was not until the end that it became clear that, oh, you had come to try to sign a new treaty. This account also used to circulate in historical circles for a long time. Now, about the whole process and archival texts of this Sino-Soviet alliance treaty I got, and after I read them I know that this is not the case at all. Firstly, before he went to Moscow, Mao sent 3 telegrams to Stalin, either directly or indirectly, telling him clearly that I was going mainly to sign a new treaty and that he particularly wanted a reply from Stalin, but because Stalin was too high up at that time, he could not say so directly. His 3rd telegram took a turn and said, "Look, do I need to take Comrade Zhou Enlai with me? If you think that a new treaty can be signed, Zhou Enlai will go with me," but Stalin did not reply. So he went alone, he took a secretary, he took a guard, he took Schuschel and Wang Dongxing, and he took a carload of gifts, because he wanted to wish Stalin a happy birthday. This gift was not very valuable but thoughtful, 20,000 catties of cabbage. Mao Zedong sent a telegram to the Shandong Provincial Committee saying, "I am going to Moscow recently to celebrate the birthday of Comrade Stalin. Please prepare a gift of 20,000 catties of cabbage plus onions and radishes, picking the best ones." I also saw in the Russian archives the list of gifts that Stalin gave to Mao in return. Gold watches, gold necklaces, gold cigarette cases, and a small car. That's beside the point. All in all, when he arrived in Moscow, nominally, it was publicly stated in the newspapers that he was there to celebrate his birthday. The specifications given to him by Stalin were very high, only Mao stood next to Stalin, all the other leaders of the country stood behind. Moreover, everyone else spoke in Russian, only Mao spoke Chinese. On the 16th of October, when Mao arrived at the Kremlin, he talked to Stalin about the treaty. The first thing he said at that time was, "Comrade Stalin, what do you think is the possibility of war? How long can there really be a period of peace?" Stalin said, "I think 5 or 10 years are possible, and if you don't go to war, peace will last even longer." The next thing Mao said was, "Before I came, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China made a decision that we thought we should abrogate the Sino-Soviet Alliance Treaty of 1945. I think he tried the old test, starting with Migao Yang, then Liu Shaoqi, to the 3 telegrams he sent. Stalin, the diplomatic bodyguard, had not been shown, so he did not know exactly what Stalin's attitude was, so he simply cut to the chase and said, "We have made a decision, we are going to get a new treaty." Before he finished, Stalin said to stop, saying that the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union had also held a meeting, and had also made a decision that the Sino-Soviet Alliance Treaty must be maintained. The conversation went to an impasse before 10 minutes had passed. Then the two talked in circles, going round and round in circles, saying things that were not relevant. At the end Mao Zedong circled back around and said towards the end, "Comrade Stalin, Comrade Zhou Enlai is coming. Do you think it is appropriate?" Stalin's mind turned quickly and said, "Why do you want him to come? I have nothing to do with him anyway, but if you have anything to do with him, you should let him come." So Mao was very unhappy when he returned. If you look at Schuschel's memoirs or Mao's conversations with Eugene, the Soviet ambassador in the 1950s, you will find several references to the cold reception he received in Moscow. In fact, it was this conversation and the period afterwards that he was referring to. A visit to the collective farm and a movie had been arranged. Mao loved watching films, which he considered to be the most concise way to understand a people. And it was especially good to watch biographies. Watching films, watching the ballet, going to Leningrad, going to the Winter Palace and whatnot. But this didn't get done, and his mind twisted, so he called Molotov in and scolded him and threw a tantrum. Later Stalin told Mao Zedong that we would talk again on the 22nd, because after the birthday ceremony on the 19th all the leaders went back, but Mao stayed there and wouldn't leave. The night of the 20th, Mao sent a telegram to the Central Committee of the Communist Party in Beijing, saying with great excitement that on the 22nd we were going to talk about substantive issues and that a breakthrough was expected. It turned out that when he talked to Stalin, Stalin did not mention a single word about the problems between China and the Soviet Union. He talked about Japan, Korea, and Vietnam for half a day, but never talked about the Sino-Soviet Treaty. Finally, Mao Zedong came back particularly angry and announced that he would not go anywhere, saying that I had a headache and that he would not show up for a week from the 24th to the 30th. The British newspapers, in particular, were abuzz with public opinion, saying that Mao had been placed under house arrest, and Stalin was also anxious, saying that you should show up, go visit a what, give you a newspaper, and that would be the end of it. Mao Zedong refused to go, saying that I only had 3 things to do a day: eat, sleep and shit. Later, on the 30th, Wang Jiaxiang and his team held a meeting. I read Wang Jiaxiang's memoirs and said, if we keep going on like this, it's not a good idea to keep the stalemate going, you'd better show up. Mao Zedong said, how can I show my face? Wang Jiaxiang said, if you do this, you can publish a talk to journalists, and once Pravda publishes it, won't the rumors be dispelled? It means you are not imprisoned. Then Mao Zedong made one. Now about this issue, because neither the Chinese nor the Russian archives have seen the text, that is, who actually drafted this talk to journalists? Now it is not known. He said that Stalin drafted it and gave it to him to read out. What was the reason for this? Because after the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, when he criticized Stalin, Mao added a charge to him, saying how he had bullied me when he got there. As I see it, it doesn't look like this is happening. Why? Look at this, the Pravda reporter asked, Comrade Mao Zedong, what have you come to Moscow for? He said, I came to sign a new Sino-Soviet alliance treaty. This was the first time this had been said, no one had spoken about it in public before, no one knew about it, they thought he had come to celebrate his birthday and give away cabbages. Then this time, he singled this out. Secondly, people asked him, so when are you leaving? He said, that depends on how the treaty is signed. The implication was that I would not leave until this new treaty was signed. This could not have been drafted by Stalin. I deduce that Mao Zedong drafted it, but Stalin agreed to it. On February 1st, Pravda published this talk, and on February 2nd, Stalin asked Molotov to come to Mao. Why did he give in? It had something to do with the United States, something directly related to the Korean War, which will be discussed later. Stalin was under pressure, so he was bound to give in. He told Molotov that he would agree to sign a new treaty and that Comrade Zhou Enlai could come. That night, Mao Zedong sent a telegram to Beijing telling Liu Shaoqi to tell Zhou Enlai to prepare immediately, to prepare for a 5-day, 10-day journey and to be sure to be in Moscow on the 20th.